When I was a teenager, I enjoyed hiking out to an old family cemetery, Black Cemetery, about a mile from my house in rural Ohio. I wandered through the stones, imagining the lives, struggles, and triumphs of the pioneers and more recent, actually, families buried in this old cemetery. Family cemeteries are a fixture in the rural Midwest. You can find them in any field that you're driving by. They just seem like random cemeteries out in the middle of nowhere, and they're unaffiliated with churches and the cities, which really didn't. The cities didn't start building cemeteries until about the 1830s. They can offer historians and hobbyists so many clues about the lives of the people who are buried there. Dates on the stones can indicate epidemics. Stone designs can give clues as to the economics and culture of the area and the prominence of the family and of the citizens over a span of many years. Unlike when I was a teenager and I used my ever active imagination to create lives for these people, today I go down the rabbit trail of researching their names on the internet and finding their actual true stories, and I learned so much. Now, Black Cemetery, which is my haunt, is located just north of New Carlisle, Ohio, in Pike Township. The first burial was that of Captain Samuel Black, who passed away in 1814. Originally from Augusta, Virginia, I believe, Captain Black moved to Ohio in the early 19th century. He served in the War of 1812, where he contracted tuberculosis and then passed away in 1814, so technically a casualty of war, leaving behind a wife and 3 young children in Ohio, far away from family. Another interesting burial in the cemetery is Lieutenant William Black, founder of Blacksburg, Virginia in 1798. He moved to Ohio in 1814 and then passed away in 1851. In some of my wanderings through the cemetery, I did recall seeing tiny American flags on some of the stones, indicating military service for the gentleman buried there. The last burial in this cemetery was in 1935. This information is simply the result of a few days of research. These family cemeteries are a wealth of information, and they need to be found and they need to be preserved, not just to honor those buried in them, but to preserve a unique part of American history, especially of these early pioneers to the old frontier. Apparently, there are institutions such as the Daughters of the American Revolution who offer grants for just such preservation, especially of history dealing with the early American Republic, but they'll give a grant for any American history. In order to apply for this grant, I would first need to get permission from the owners of the cemetery. Back when I used to visit, I was definitely trespassing. 100% remember passing the no trespassing signs saying that doesn't apply to me. Today it appears to be open to the public until dusk. After obtaining the necessary permission, I would next need to find a contractor to do the work. I'm unfamiliar with the process and best practices of tombstone and graveyard restoration. One such company that appears to do this type of work in the area is called Gravestone Guardians. Prior to applying for the grant, I would have to have that company come out to the cemetery to survey, provide an estimation of cost, time, etc., the things that the DAR requires when you apply for the grant. Once I have that information, I then actually have to apply through a local DAR chapter, and the closest is the Lagonda chapter in Springfield, Ohio. The DAR requires that I provide the general and financial information, details about what's required, the urgency of the work, the benefit of the work to my community, as well as how I would make sure that they are recognized for their contribution, likely through some kind of signage or plaque at the cemetery, and then maybe information through New Carlisle's Historical Society. The needs of the cemetery would likely reach the $10,000 grant maximum, as restoration and preservation per stone can be quite expensive, and there are about 200 stones in a variety of conditions from good to extremely poor. This project falls within the scope of their requirements for their grants and provides an excellent opportunity to preserve this forgotten aspect of American early history.